The objectives in 71 of the Air Force was to achieve air superiority or air dominance. Very quickly put my gun trigger down and went for the Sabre still. And I was still behind him, but from 400 odd yards, I closed into about, I would say, less than 100. Sabre was that huge in my windshield. As soon as I pressed the trigger, because I was so close, he exploded in front of me. I was hoping that I'll get 5 of them. Unfortunately, I only got one and one engagement. Then we attacked the governor's house, and Governor Malik, because of that hit, he got under the table and quickly wrote out his resignation and ran off to Intercontinental Hotel.
December 2025 marks the 54th anniversary of India's victory against Pakistan in the 1971 war. And Indian Air Force played a crucial role in that war. And one of the bravehearts and veterans of 1971 war is with us today, Air Marshal Harish Masand, who fought the war, and he brought down the enemy Sabre, and also he was awarded Vir Chakra gallantry for that. And later on, he went on to serve at the highest levels in the Indian Air Force. Sir, we are honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Nivriti.
So as they say, sir?
Let me correct you, I never reached the highest level. I retired as an Air Marshal, which is high enough, but not the highest. The chief is the highest.
You're generous enough to say that, sir. You were fighting with a Sabre in a Hunter.
Right.
So they correctly say that it is not the aircraft, but the pilot who makes you win or lose.
Well, I'll put it this way. The Hunter is not way inferior to the Sabre. Quite frankly, the Hunter is a very capable aircraft, and I love flying it. Where we lacked a little bit in the Hunter was that the Sabre had been modified and fitted with Sidewinder missiles, and the Hunter had no missiles. So obviously with a missile, your shooting range increases. You can fire at a longer distance, while we had to rely only on our guns, for which we had to come very close to the enemy behind them. Also, the Sabre is a proven fighter of the Korean War, modified over the years, and its turn performance was much better than the Hunter. And in the Hunter, if you made a mistake of getting into a turning fight with the Sabre, you would probably lose. The Hunter's power was better, so we had to learn to fight more in the vertical plane and less in the horizontal plane.
For Indian Air Force, this was the first major war that it participated in a big way.
But in 71, certainly, the Air Force was utilized in a far more effective manner and led to a complete victory and a liberation of a nation, a portion of Pakistan in just 13 days, almost like a blitzkrieg.
How did Indian Air Force get involved in the 1971 war? And what were the major operations that it carried?
You see, I'm a firm believer that air power has always played a dominant role. Today, it is aerospace. Nothing moves on the surface, the Navy and the Army and the other forces, nothing happens below unless you control the medium on top. The objectives in 71 of the Air Force, and it was actually to attain, in the East particularly, was to achieve air superiority or air dominance as soon as possible, and then support the Army and the Navy in their, particularly the Army in its movement inside Pakistan to liberate it, East Pakistan.
So the operation actually started in the West.
Yes,
right?
yes, they attacked us in the West first. In the West, we didn't want to gain any ground. That was not the objective. It was to hold them and to sort of dominate the Pakistan Air Force so that they didn't cause any damage on the West and we didn't lose any territory. But in the East, our objective was to liberate, so occupy territory over there and then hand it over to the Bengalis.
What is the day when Air Force got into this conflict?
In third itself, actually, quite frankly, third, after they attacked the airfields in the West, initially we had a small flight called Kilo Flight, which was manned by Bangladeshi and Bengali pilots, East Pakistan pilots, Air Force. And they operated very small force, of course, one helicopter, one otter, and one Dakota. I mean, nominal stuff. But we, I think, very rightly gave them the honor of doing the first attack on third night itself in Chittagong Refinery, Narayanganj, and places like that. With whatever they had with the alouette, they did something. And by midnight and later, we had the Canberras going in at night to try and take out the two main airfields of East Pakistan, which were in Dhaka, which is Tesgaon and Kurmitola. So fighter operations actually commenced in earnest on fourth morning in the east.
I want to know your story, sir.
Oh, okay. So,
and how did you bring down Pakistani Sabre, which was better in capability as far as hunters are concerned, and you were flying a hunter, and that too as the junior most pilot in that amongst those 4 pilots.
I was only 24 years old at that time, with very limited flying experience, but operational on hunters. And I would say I was very fortunate to be able to participate in this war.
Let me ask you, what did you feel like when you were asked to fly a hunter and get involved in the operation?
Oh, I loved it. I loved the hunter. It's a beautiful aircraft, really.
Considering the fact that you were only 24 years old.
Yeah, but we started our operational training or flying in Hunter Squadron. Amazing date, 4th of December 1968 is when I reported to 37 Squadron. And 4th of December 71, we actually went into operation. So I'd been there in this squadron for 3 years. In between, quite frankly, they'd asked me to go on, convert onto nets. I went for the fitment, and I actually made myself too tall, my legs too tall, too long, and made sure that I was rejected for nets, though taller people than me have flown the net. Only for one reason. I wanted to consolidate on one aircraft. And I said if I convert onto nets at that particular time, I would be neither here nor there and miss out on the action. So I remained in 37, and that's how I went into the war. Even despite limited experience, I was very confident on the Hunter. Every pilot's dream is to shoot down aircraft and become an ace, and I was hoping that I'll get 5 of them. Unfortunately, I only got 1 and 1 engagement.
But you were not supposed to hit them.
Now, as it happened from Hasimara, when the orders had come and the profiles had been decided by higher-ups, we were actually going beyond the calculated range of the Hunter. We had cut into our combat reserves, and we had also cut into a little bit of fuel, because 4 minutes extra that we were flying meant that you had less combat reserves and you had less fuel for diversion in case you had to go somewhere else, like Bagdogra was the nearest airfield. So our orders were that you will not engage sabres, you are on the strike roll, you will attack Dhaka, and Tesgaon airfield was our target, first mission. The MiGs from Guwahati, 28 and 4 Squadron were operating from there. They will come and cover you and take on the sabres while you carry out the attack. I've always said, man proposes, God disposes. So we got bounced by sabres about 2 minutes short.
Where were the MiGs then, sir?
The MiGs were approaching from a different direction towards Dhaka. We were from a different direction. And sure enough, when I reported the sabres, I was the guy who reported the sabres as number 3 in that formation. My CO, Supri Kaul, who later became chief, he naturally called up the MiG leader and said, we're being bounced. So the MiG leader said, Supri, where are you? And this where are you was carrying on between the 2 formations for what seemed like eternity. It must have been 20, 30 seconds. But in the meantime, the sabres came from our right, I was on the left, and they fell behind us. One element or one sabre behind Supri's element, 2 aircraft. There was Supri and Bilu Sangar. And I was alone on the left, and the second sabre came behind me. So he was a little further than the lead sabre. And that's when the lead sabre found that he couldn't catch up with us. I mean, he was not closing the distance fast enough for him. So he dumped his tanks, the fuel tanks. The moment he dropped his tank, there was a spray of fuel below the belly of the aircraft. And to me, it seemed like a missile launch. I had to take tactical action and evasive action immediately. So I ordered a hard turn, which was the only way to evade a missile at low level of those days. And with the intent that we will turn around 180 degrees and roll out towards home and get there, because we didn't have any fuel to fight them. When I turned around, I didn't find Supi and Bilu Sangar's formation now. They were initially on the right. After doing a 180, they should be on my left, getting home. So when I looked around left where they should be, didn't find anybody. So kind of looked, and suddenly then I found two hunters way behind on the left, with a saber behind them, at about 300-400 yards behind them, and black puffs of smoke coming from his nose. That means he's firing at them. So I thought Supi and Belu had been caught by the saber or something had happened. So I yelled, at Supi. I said, Supi is firing at you, turn hard. And now, though our orders were not to engage and we didn't have the fuel, I must go back a little bit. When I had taken off, my undercarriage didn't go up.
Oh,
So initially, for the first 4 or 5 minutes, I flew with the undercarriage down, trying to get it up.
So the undercarriage is the
landing
gear.
The landing gear, yeah. It didn't go up because there's a button there. In the Hunter, there's an emergency switch, override switch as we called it, which was to be used only in emergency and operations, because if you use that and raise the landing gear and the button went in, there was no certainty when you lower it, it'll come down.
What came into your mind at that point of time?
That time I didn't want Supi to go alone. So I used the override. But in the meantime, because I was crawling along and they were getting ahead, and then I had to catch up with them, I had burnt more fuel than I should have. So I was already short of a little more fuel. But now seeing Supi and Belu, in my opinion, being fired at, there was no question of worrying about fuel. You had to go and save them because it's your squadron, it's your paltan or whatever you call it, it's your gang. So I turned around and went behind the saber very quickly. I fell behind him beautifully, very quickly, before he realized that somebody had come behind him. I put my gun sight on him correctly, tracking correctly with the gyro gun sight that we had, and surprisingly, as in training, when you did combat, you always brought back a film to prove, with the recorder film, to prove that you had got behind somebody and you had got a kill. So I pressed the camera button.
I read that, sir.
I mean, that force of habit, and that I carried
Muscle
forward.
memory.
Yeah, but luckily I reacted very quickly, put my gun trigger down, and went for the saber still. And I was still behind him, but from 400 odd yards, I closed into about, I would say, less than 100. Saber was that huge in my windshield. So I just put the cross on him and fired. As soon as I pressed the trigger, because I was so close and we were carrying high explosive bullets, he exploded in front of me.
It reminds me of a few scenes from some movies. Through the ball of fire, aircraft goes into that ball of fire and then suddenly comes out of the fire. Was that the scene?
Almost like that. There was no time to react and evade that explosion, so I went straight through the center. God was with me, not a scratch on my aircraft when I came out. I wish I had more fuel because the other saber was still around. I didn't have the fuel to go back and look for him or fight with him or do anything, so I had to turn around and go home.
How long did this dogfight end, sir?
I think everything gets in a dogfight in the air. It takes a minute, maybe a minute and a half, nothing more.
Are all the dogfights like that, sir?
All dogfights generally, I mean, we cater for about 2 minutes in the Air Force maximum, because after 2 minutes, either the opponent or you will run out of gas. I mean, you won't have the gas to continue. I mean, either he'll have to disengage or you disengage, and the fight gets over within that time. But the lesson I brought home for later generations was, please practice your switches even in peacetime, though you may not use them, but remember to go through the motions so that in war, that fleeting opportunity that you get, you don't miss it.
Every second matters in a 1 minute fight.
Past him.
Get a feeling of fear even for a moment during the operation.
Cockpit, all your fears and all your... there's no time to think in fighter cockpits, really. Quite frankly, I mean, if you look at it, I had violated orders of engaging without having fuel. And let's say I ejected on the way and I hadn't made it home. I may not have been sitting here today. I might have been court-martialed and sent out or whatever. Luckily, I shot the guy. Got home with actually nothing in my tanks. My chiefy, the guy who was in charge, the flight sergeant, Chowdhury, I still remember him. He's like a father figure to me. Later came and told me, he said, sir, you know how much fuel you had? Zero. You had less than 100 gallons. We done last year for more than half a minute or 1 minute in the Hunter. I'd taken off on 1-1, east facing runway in Hasimara. When I came back, I landed on 29 Ulta, because there was no time to do a circuit and come around. And
what did your superiors say when you landed? Because you were not supposed to engage.
No.
And you did engage, and you brought down a Pakistani Sabre. So they must be confused what to say.
I mean, they were pleased. I mean, they were not unhappy about it. I didn't get court-martial. There were no questions asked. I carried on. And I was Sopi's wingman throughout the war, literally, even before the war. I mean, he'd chosen me, God's, a coincidence. Both of us came back without a scratch throughout the missions that we flew. On my helmet, I always had it written, God is my co-pilot.
I've seen that. You shared a picture of that helmet with me, sir.
So I think God was has been my co-pilot all my life. That's why I'm here.
Sir, can you briefly tell us about the missions, the operations that Air Force conducted in the 1971 war,
So
like the Tangale paradrop and all?
Oh, yes.
2-3 missions, very briefly.
Of course. You see, the mission started about 2 months, 3 months before, because we started going in and doing photo reconnaissance. Supi and I were regulars inside, doing this. And we'd done 6-7 missions before the war actually started. And then went into initially counter-air, trying to take out the Sabres on the ground or if required in the air, like we shot down. And then after Tesgaon airfield was closed by MiG-21's bombing from Guwahati, and that's again a very proud, my squadron later, 28th Squadron, took the initiative there. After we won complete air superiority, the entire Air Force had switched, the East had switched to supporting the Army. So we were doing interdiction or close air support depending on demands. And then we went into a very important mission when we attacked the governor's house. I feel that one of the generals in the Army who actually deserves the credit as the liberator of Bangladesh or the hero of Bangladesh, in my opinion, was the Lieutenant General Sagat Singh. He had garnered or grabbed all the serviceable major number of serviceable helicopters in the East. So he had something like, as far as I know, about 11 serviceable Mi-4 helicopters with him. 14 total, but 11 out of 3 units. So he used these helicopters to slowly lift literally a division of troops across to the West Bank and race for Dhaka. And he would recce the area, land ahead of the troops and wave them on, saying, there's nothing, come, race for Dhaka, because he realized that Dhaka was the key to winning the war quickly, You had to capture Dhaka to get there. So he was racing with his troops from the east and south and northeast, I would put it that way. And here, the paradrop had taken place on Tangale on the 11th with 2 para. But it was under Major General Nagaraj from the north, who was in Shillong with 101 Calm Zone, they used to call it, who was moving along with this. The paradrop came under him. So they were moving in towards Dhaka from the north. Right? And the west 2 corps, which was supposed to come from Calcutta area and come in quickly, they were kind of held up. So here from 2-3 directions, the army was already hitting the gates of Dhaka by the 14th. And luckily, at that time, that morning, with very little warning, we got intelligence message. There's a meeting on the governor's house where Governor Malik and all the senior commanders and secretaries and everybody is going to meet and hit them in the governor's house. There was a Second World War tourist map of Dhaka where the governor house or government house was indicated. So we took that, Supi obviously took it, we memorized it, compared and kind of in relation to all the other features around. And 4 of us hunters went that afternoon by noon to try and hit it. And we hit it very accurately. Now what I say is why it was timely was, here the army was closing in, then we attacked the governor's house. And Governor Malik, because of that hit, he got under the table and quickly wrote out his resignation and ran off to Intercontinental Hotel where they were, refuge or sleeping. If they had continued to fight, they had 30 to 40,000 troops within Dhaka at that time, even then, left over. we may not have been able to liberate Bangladesh, as we call it, in that quick time. But this synergy of the psychological blow that we hit from the air, the army is knocking on your door, actually made them collapse. And this was coupled with another raid on 15th, where the troops were hiding in the university area. That information we got. Once again, the MiGs from Guwahati and hunters from Hasimara, Supi and I went, and we attacked the university area. Literally sending a message, which I've written about and published, and sending a message saying, you can run, but you can't hide. We'll get you.
And it were the MiG-21s that led this entire war?
Led or otherwise, we all one team. Who led? How's that important? Yeah, MiG-21 did a very stellar role. There's no denying that. I'm very proud of it. Once again, because it was my squadron, 28
right.
later.
Right, sir.
So a lot
the
of
first supersonics.
First supersonics, yeah.
Right.
I was again very fortunate to command it later. Because that's why I say air power gives you it's the umbrella in a way. Keeps you away from rain and all the other things while you do your work on the ground, on the surface. So,
I would like to conclude with this question, sir. How many of their fighters were downed by us, and how many of our fighters we lost?
Yeah, because of their own thinking that the defense of the East lies in the West, so they will focus on the West and win something in the West and be able to negotiate for the East. Didn't work that way, So they denuded the East of fighters, which they needed, and radars and other things. Only the ACAC, the anti-aircraft around Dhaka, was thick, absolutely very thick. I mean, it claimed a lot of aircraft of ours when we went into ground attack missions. 2 Sabres they had lost in Boira on November 22nd. 2 Sabres and 1 damage. The CO, Vinkumara Chaudhary, had limped back home. 3 Sabres they lost in air-to-air that day on 4th of December to us. I would say they lost about 5 Sabres in the war. So I would say we lost about total of 8, 9 fighters. But we were on the attack, remember, okay, and ground attack mode, and we were going low, naturally exposing ourselves to guns and shooting. So on the offensive, you lose a little more. Yes, we did.
What did your father say?
Well, he didn't know.
I heard he was not in favor of you joining the Air Force,
Yeah,
but when you received Vir Chakra, and everybody must have been
he was happy, but he's still not very happy because when I went home and he heard the news that yes, I shot down the Sabre, won the Vir Chakra, they were proud, but my father never forgave me for 20 years for having joined the Air Force. I told my father, I said, I want to do something more adventurous than just engineers and whatever. That life was not meant for me. So finally he relented, let me go, but kind of.
He was not at all in favor.
No, it's only after the MiG-29s, and that's another story when he came out. So you haven't done too badly, it's okay.
Memories fade with time, but it won't.
Not this. This is etched in your memory. I mean,
this is pride.
once in a lifetime things that happen, important events.
Right.
You don't forget easily. No, I think it's going to remain with me till I.
Thank you for being here in our studios, in News 9's studios.
Thank you.